On the night of the 15th and 16th of March, three large oil refineries in Russia's Samara Oblast were targeted by attack drones of the security services of Ukraine. The targeted refineries in Kubishevsky, and Sirzan Oil were targeted. These refineries process a total of about 25 million tons of oil per year, which is about 10% of total Russian refining capacity. Authorities in Russia's Samara Oblast reported fires at oil refineries after the drone strikes. The initial strike occurred at the Sirzan oil refinery, igniting around 6 a.m. Multiple drones targeted the other refineries, and these fires were reported extinguished. The governor of Russia's Samara Oblast reported that two refineries in the area were targeted and that no casualties resulted, but one facility was on fire. According to NCOR, citing data from the St. Petersburg International Mercantile Exchange, there's been a 6 to 7% increase in the wholesale prices of petroleum products in Russia, including petrol and diesel. Specifically, the price of the standard Russian diesel rose by about 3,000 rubles and during an auction that was held. Similarly, well, these are all just kind of technical discussions about prices of Russian oil. I don't think anyone needs to hear about the rise in prices of oil, but suffice to say, prices of oil going up. The rise in oil prices with attacks on Russian oil refineries coincide with the attack on the Pervy Zavod oil refinery in Kaluga, which suffered damage previously. The closure of these refineries occurs just before the expected increase in demand for fuel in the spring and the commencement of the repair season in Russia. Next item. The Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine, in its report published on March 15th, expressed concern over the continuing pattern of human rights violations and breaches of international humanitarian law in Russian-occupied Ukraine. The report assessed the grave impact on civilians of the fighting in and the siege of Mariupol at the outset of the full-scale invasion, satellite imagery providing an indication of widespread devastation of whole urban areas of the city. Residents described unbearable suffering and endured relentless shelling and aerial bombardments, which caused large-scale death and destruction. After emerging from shelters, civilians reported seeing masses of dead bodies, and data obtained by the commission reported that at least 58 medical buildings and 11 power stations were damaged or destroyed. More generally, recent indiscriminate attacks committed by Russian armed forces have led to civilian casualties and the destruction and damage of civilian objects, including protected objects such as hospitals and cultural property. Again, this is all the reports, the statements of the report. Russian armed forces have failed to take feasible precautions to verify that affected actions and objects do not affect civilians. New evidence strengthens the Commission's previous findings that torture against civilians by Russian authorities in Ukraine and in the Russian Federation have been widespread and systematic. Victims' accounts disclose relentless, brutal treatment, inflicting severe pain and suffering during prolonged detentions, with blatant disregard for human dignity. This has led to long-lasting physical and mental trauma from the victims. So that's the conclusion of the UN report. Next item. The death toll from a strike on Odessa carried out with Iskander-M missiles and Shahid drones on March 15th has tragically climbed to 19. 19 fatalities, 73 injuries. Among those affected are local residents, medical personnel, and state emergency service workers. There was a second strike in the same location, which targeted emergency response workers aiding victims from the initial attack. Prosecutors and investigators are documenting the aftermath, classifying it as yet another war crime perpetrated by Russia. Criminal proceedings have commenced, focusing on violations of international laws and customs of war, coupled with deliberate acts of crimes against humanity. Also in Sumy, at the location of a hostile strike on a 5-story residential building, a search and rescue operation is currently taking place. Emergency teams have so far recovered the body of 3 victims, and the rescue operations are currently ongoing in that collapsed 5-story residential building in Sumy. Next item. Local officials in Russia are intensifying efforts to boost voter turnout for President Vladimir Putin's so called re-election. Tactics include pressuring public sector employees and state linked company workers to vote, as well as enticing residents with various incentives such as free meals, concert tickets, and prize raffles. I think we can go to the next footage. These include Ferris wheel rides for the first time voters in Omsk and the chance to win prizes like iPhone, Dyson Airwraps in the Altai region, free bread rolls and porridge in the Strezhyevoy region, and the opportunity to win motorcycles, apartments, and cars in the Sverdlovsk region. Additionally, officials in Tatarstan are organizing a free music festival, and attendees in Kazan will receive free public transport. In other words, all the governors are taking every effort to make sure everyone in their districts vote for Putin, of course. Ukrainian military intelligence reportedly conducted cyber operations targeting Russian online voting mechanisms. While Russia's ruling party, Russia United, faced a widespread denial of service attack against its online presence during the election. President Putin accused Ukraine of sabotage as Ukraine's military intelligence agency confirmed attempts to hack the election system. Simultaneously, a series of arson attacks occurred at polling stations across Russia, with dramatic protests unfolding during the casting of ballots. These incidents include the detention of individuals setting fire to voting booths and the use of petrol bombs, leading to the arrest of several elderly women. Additionally, Russia's efforts to hold elections in the occupied territories have drawn international condemnation, with over 50 countries rejecting the legitimacy of these actions to hold such elections in occupied territory. Reports and footage have emerged in occupied territory of forced voting under the watch of armed soldiers and other coercive tactics. So just real quick, I should mention, as far as I know, all of the camera footage and all of the arrests so far have been older women, like old babushkas, and mostly what they're doing is they're dumping like green dye into the ballot box, so it kind of ruins the results, or they're throwing Molotov cocktails at the voting centers. I don't know, I encourage everyone to go check out some of that footage. Very interesting. Just kind of part of a pattern. We've seen a little bit of like insurgent activity by Russian grandmas. So I guess more power to them. Next item. In an interview with Kirilo Budanov, the chief of Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, main directorate of intelligence, I should say, significant details were revealed about planned upgrades for the Magara 5 naval drones. These upgrades are part of Ukraine's strategic efforts to enhance the capabilities of their drones in the face of Russian naval dominance in the Black Sea. Budanov highlighted that the Magara 5 drones, which have been instrumental in targeting Russian naval assets, are currently being outfitted with air defense equipment. This addition aims to address the drone's vulnerability to Russian gunship helicopters by allowing them to detect, track, and engage aerial threats. The complexity of integrating such sophisticated systems on a relatively small unmanned platform is a technical challenge, but the determination to expand the drone's operational roles necessitates it. Furthermore, the drones are being modified to not only engage targets, but also tackle sea and air targets, but also tackle ground targets, enhancing their versatility. Budanov's discussion reveals an ongoing effort to develop stabilizers for the drones, which mitigate the impact of waves and pressure changes, ensuring that the drones can maintain accuracy and operational effectiveness during more difficult maritime conditions like storms. Stealth capabilities are also being improved, with the drones gaining the ability to temporarily submerge, making them more difficult for enemy defenses to detect. The stealth aspect is critical for approaching and attacking targets with a highly reduced risk of interception. Looking ahead, Budanov mentioned that there are plans to equip Magara variants with anti-air missiles, aiming to establish local air superiority and support amphibious assaults. The Budanov just suggested that they're looking at every comprehensive upgrade possible to make the platform more capable and effective. Ukraine is also preparing to start the mass production of versatile ground robotic platforms for frontline missions, as announced by Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine's Minister of Digital Transformation. These robotic platforms are expected to be highly effective on the battlefield. They're designed to perform a variety of tasks, including destroying enemy positions and equipment, laying and clearing mines, evacuating wounded, and transporting ammunition. The primary goal of the ground robots is to minimize human involvement on the battlefield. That's a direct quote. Providing asymmetric response to the numerical advantage of the enemy, similar to the role of other drones. Over 50 of these robotic complexes, I think they mean like units, have been tested by the testing grounds. In the near future, hundreds of these platforms of various types will be purchased through the United 24 initiative and allocated to the Ukrainian armed forces. Fedorov also noted that more than 140 robotic systems are registered on the platform, with 96 having passed expertise. I think this is like types of or designs of robots, and 14 codified according to NATO standards. Such systems, such as the Shablia robotic turret, are already operational on the front lines. This system is an automated turret resistant to bullets and designed to mount machine guns, grenade launchers, and other weapons. It's equipped with video and thermal cameras, not thermal camels, as well as a remote control, so that operators can control the turret from a safe location or from up to 2 kilometers away, or it can be automated. Additionally, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense is evaluating a novel floating body armor tailored for the special forces within Ukraine. This was announced on the ministry's Facebook page. This innovative armor is undergoing tests of its functionality and performance for units that operate in aquatic environments, including naval forces, pontoon units, special operations forces, and selected air assault forces. This advanced armor integrates a floating module that attaches to standard body armor, designed to sustain the weight of a soldier, along with 27 kilograms of additional gear. The objective is to enhance survivability and mobility of troops in water by ensuring that they remain buoyant even when fully equipped. The testing phase involves direct feedback from soldiers who have had the opportunity to use the floating body armor in real battlefield conditions. According to Alexander Sharko, a specialist from the Central Department for the Development and Support of Material to the Armed Forces, the armor features an automatic air cushion that inflates upon entering the water and propels the soldier to the surface. The Defense Ministry emphasized the importance of feedback from field tests, noting that insights from the soldiers are crucial for refining and enhancing the product. The goal is to equip the Ukrainian military with gear that provides a tactical advantage over their adversaries. So that is that. Next item. Polish farmers are currently obstructing Ukrainian freight transport at 5 border checkpoints, leading to a significant backlog of trucks at Ukraine's borders with Slovakia, Hungary, and Romania. In other words, the blockades at the Polish borders are causing other people to use alternate routes, and that in turn is causing delays at these other checkpoints. This is reported by Colonel Andriy Demchenko, a spokesperson for Ukraine's State Border Guard Service. During a national joint 24/7 newscast and in remarks to Ukrainska Pravda, Demchenko highlighted that the blockade affects Yahodin, Ustila, Uhriniv, Ravaruska, and Shahini checkpoints. These blockades have halted all truck traffic from Ukraine to Poland, with the most severe restrictions at the Yahodin and Shahini checkpoints. According to Dmytro, around 1,050 lorries are currently queued in Poland. I think this is from the BBC, predominantly at the Rava-Ruska and Yahodin. I already mentioned that. However, the lorry traffic through the Krakowec checkpoint remains unobstructed. The situation has also led to increased queues in other directions. There's about 500 lorries waiting in the Slovakia checkpoint, and about 1,000 in Hungary, and about 500 on the Romanian border. Polish businesses operating in Ukraine are experiencing significant financial setbacks, with losses amounting to hundreds of millions of euros during the ongoing blockade with the Ukrainian-Poland border. This was stated by Simon Washin, the head of the International Association of Polish Entrepreneurs in Ukraine. Washin explained that the financial damages stem from failed deliveries and breaches of contract, affecting transactions on both sides of the border. While specific figures are challenging to pinpoint, estimates suggest losses range from the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars. According to a study by the European Business Association, The average loss per Polish company among the 44 surveyed in Ukraine is around $700,000 US dollars. This figure encompassed direct financial losses and penalties for not meeting the contract obligations, particularly in the construction industry. Washington expressed concern over the uncertainty of future deliveries, highlighting the strain on business partnerships and the need for reliable guarantees that are currently unattainable in the conditions of the blockade. The association remains hopeful for a resolution and the lifting of the border blockade by March 28th, anticipating a positive impact involving Ukraine's accession discussions. The expectation is that an upcoming meeting between Ukrainian and Polish agriculture ministers will address some of the tensions between the two nations. Dariusz Gorzinski, a board member of the International Association of Polish Entrepreneurs, emphasized the importance of these discussions as a precursor to intergovernmental consultations scheduled for March 28th in Warsaw, which aim to resolve the disputes at the border. Next item. According to a recent report, as of January 2024, approximately 4.9 million Ukrainians are currently still displaced abroad due to Russia's full-scale invasion, with a significant number expected to remain permanently outside of Ukraine, ranging from between 1.4 and 2.3 million individuals. The majority of refugees are women, with a notable share being women aged 35 to 44 with their children. Germany and Poland in Europe, and the US and UK and Canada outside of Europe have absorbed the highest number of Ukrainian refugees, or proportion, I should say. However, the report highlights a concerning trend of diminishing financial support and increasing restrictions imposed by host countries over time. The Center for Economic Strategy proposes several recommendations to facilitate the return of Ukrainians and the ease of their reintegration into society following the war. These include fostering cooperation with EU countries for repatriation efforts, expanding post-war reconstruction in affected regions, providing assistance to individuals from affected and occupied areas during reconstruction, and promoting public-private partnerships. Additionally, the Center for Economic Strategy suggests enhancing resources for communication with Ukrainian expatriates through diplomatic channels, simplifying the reintegration of children into Ukrainian schools, and facilitating the university admissions for those who completed, sorry, one moment here. For those who completed their CES, admissions, for those who completed their education abroad. Further, the CES advocates granting Ukrainian refugees freedom of movement and residency choices akin to those enjoyed by EU citizens. These were all the recommendations. I got a little lost there. Aiming to provide them with greater autonomy and opportunities for rebuilding upon return. Next item. On March 12th, 2024, the Danish Defense Ministry announced a new military aid package for Ukraine, valued at approximately 2.3 billion Danish kroner, or about 337 million USD. This package is Denmark's 16th such delivery of military aid since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. It includes Caesar self-propelled howitzers and self-propelled 120mm mortars, as well as associated ammunition. The funds will also be used as part of the Czech-led initiative to purchase artillery shells for Ukraine. Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen stated that artillery and mortar systems are in high demand by Ukraine, and with this package, they're providing substantial contributions to Ukraine's fight for freedom, including additional Caesar and ammunition. On March 13th, permanent representatives from EU countries agreed on a $5 billion increase in the European Peace Facility, which is used to fund supplies of weapons to Ukraine. This decision was announced by the Belgian presidency of the Council of the EU. The European Peace Fund is used partially to reimburse member countries for weapons provided to Ukraine. The latest tranche of the EU's fund is set to be approved at a meeting of ambassadors of member states. However, it's unclear how much of the $5 billion will be used directly for military assistance to Ukraine. It is assumed the priority will be given to the purchase of European made weapons, although weapons from third countries are not ruled out if they're the only option. The deal creates the Ukraine Assistance Fund, part of the EU's budget for the European Peace Fund. The outlines of the deal were first reported by Politico, and Joseph Borrell mentioned that the deal was complete by saying, "We made it, and the message is clear. We will support Ukraine with whatever it takes to prevail." Wednesday's agreement brings the EPF total to 17 billion, of which 11 billion is allocated to Ukraine, with the rest going to other regions like Africa. So far, they've paid out 6.1 billion for Ukraine aid, and there's an expectation that they will. Oh, sorry, that happened. It says there's an expectation they will get the 5 billion next year. That happened. Hooray! The financing is desperately needed by Kyiv, especially with U.S. aid being currently blocked by partisan efforts in Washington. But it took weeks of negotiations to finesse objections from France, Germany, and Hungary. In the end, Berlin, which had the support of the Czech Republic, partially walked back its request. Instead of demanding a 100% reduction in contributions, it will agree to a level below 50%. We've gone over this a bit. I think Germany and probably France as well, they prefer bilateral contributions. I think that was the objection. Hungary, I think it's obvious why they're objecting. France, backed by Cyprus, held up the agreement by insisting that the fund be used. Oh, I see. France's specific disagreement was that it should only be used to reimburse EU-made equipment. Nordic and Baltic countries, as well as the Netherlands and Italy, argued that Ukraine's desperate need for arms and ammunition meant there should be some flexibility on this buy European provision. The final deal basically is a compromise that says they're going to buy European if they can, but that there's if they can't come by it through some European means, then there are temporary circumstances that will allow them to not buy European. That was my understanding of the wording. Next item. On March 16th, Ukraine's military intelligence chief, Kirill Budanov, made an official television statement that anti-Kremlin militias, which include groups like the Siberian Battalion, the Freedom of Russia Legion, and the Russian Volunteer Corps, are evolving from mere groupings to a considerable force. These militias have initiated a cross-border incursion into Russian territories such as Belgorod and Kursk Oblast as of March 12th, leading to confrontations with Russian troops. Budanov emphasized the shared goal of the anti-Kremlin militias is for the transformation of Russia and underscored their growing significance as a force. He confirmed that these Russian units do not foresee halting their efforts soon and aim to maximize their impact. Budanov also confirmed that these squads have been aiding Ukraine since the onset of the full-scale Russian invasion and underscored the Ukrainian forces' commitment to support them within available means. Furthermore, on March 16th, the Freedom of Russia Legion issued a renewed warning to Belgorod and Kursk Oblast residents, urging evacuation due to the continuation of aggressive maneuvers against Putin's armed forces. On the same day, Belgorod Oblast Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov reported that the city and neighboring areas were targeted by rocket fire. Official commentary from Ukrainian quarters on these allegations has yet to be made, and there is yet independent validation of these rocket attacks. In the early hours of March 16th, the Russian Volunteer Corps claimed to have captured 25 Russian soldiers during their incursions. A video was published on Telegram where the Russian Volunteer Corps commander, also known by his nom de guerre White Rex, was seen talking to a man introduced as a captured Russian senior lieutenant named Alexei Volkov. Both Nikitin and Volkov denied earlier statements by the Russian Defense Ministry that the incursions were all repelled and that heavy losses were inflicted on their forces. Like, in other words, Russia claimed officially that they did attempt this incursion, that they killed hundreds of them, and that they retreated. And they're basically saying they released a video with captured prisoners, denying that. The video also showed other alleged Russian prisoners with blurred faces, and they claimed to have captured 25 personnel. And the commander appealed to Belgorod Oblast Governor Gladkov to meet and facilitate the handover of the prisoners. The Freedom of Russia Legion reported the destruction of 2 military warehouses in Tochyni, Kursk Oblast, on March 14th. However, the Defense Ministry claimed that this didn't happen. Ukraine's Ministry of Intelligence, Andrei Yusov, stated that the militias are comprised of Russian citizens under the Ukrainian Defense and Security Forces, but that their incursions into Russia are not taking place under the direction of Ukraine. He further added that on the territory of the Russian Federation, they are absolutely autonomous on their own and pursue their own social and political programs and tasks. The situation continues to develop. Fighting is apparently ongoing, as far as we can tell, or at least we don't have any evidence that it's ended as of yet. So we'll keep everyone posted. So that is all my news for this week. I think with that, it's over to Maurice for the German aid report. Over to you, my friend.